This episode of Adventures in Alchemy is brought to you by the Moon and Magic Planner, 13 Moons of 2020. Plan on magic for 2020. Magic just doesn't happen. You have to plan on it. And this planner has plenty of ideas and spaces for creating magic. It celebrates the moons instead of the months. It follows the cycles of nature. It has pages to share your word of the year, your intentions, and oracle reading for the year. It also has spaces for your incantations, full and new moon rituals, working with waxing and waning moon energy, planner pages to script out your best year, and weekly pages that include the oracle of the week, along with magical notes, spells, and recipes that you may be working with, or experiments, right? And also you can track all of your magical habits here because these habits really build up our own connection to magic in the world. And it's just brimming with magical energy for you to have the most magical 2020 yet. How many times did I say magical? Too many. But go to the show notes and check out the link, or just go to www.dailyalchemy.com and scroll down to about the middle of the page and you'll find a big button that'll take you right there where you can see the brand new gorgeous cover for 2020. Hi, I'm Michelle Martin Dobbins, the creator of dailyalchemy.com and the Moon and Magic Planner. Welcome to another episode of Adventures in Alchemy, where we share tips, techniques, and true stories to support you in using magic, witchcraft, and alchemy to right wrongs, heal generational wounds, create synchronicity, and re-enchant your world. I charm this podcast episode to be of service, to allow divine ideas to come through, and to bring value to all who listen. Now, on with the show. Okay, so today's episode, we're going to talk about magical protection for the holidays. And I'm going to give you tips for two scenarios. Offensive, which is people coming into your space, and defensive, going into other people's spaces. And honestly, you should do a little bit of protection work year round. And so if you do, you won't have to do so much at the holidays. And protection work is really like boundaries, right? Something we do in our mundane life. Not that I would separate the mundane from the magical, but it depends on who you are and where you live, right? Most of us live in a place now where we lock the doors. My parents never locked the doors when I was a kid growing up because there just wasn't really a need for it. Nobody came around, nobody messed with anything, so it wasn't something that we thought about. So you have to kind of look at yourself and what your lifestyle is like, where you live, how much you put yourself out there as to how much protection that you need. And I used to be a person who would say, oh, that's more of the law of attraction. If I'm saying I need protection, then I'm creating a scenario in which I need protection. Then I've just kind of realized, like, in life, it's just really common sense to have personal boundaries to ourselves, physical boundaries, sometimes in some places like locks on our doors or cameras outside of our house, whatever works for you, right? And where you live and what's going on in your world. And so the holidays will be the same, right? If you have protection as a habit, though, you just have to tweak it a little bit during the holidays. Most people anyway, because it's a time where your boundaries, magical and mundane, might get tested just a little bit more because we're spending more time celebrating with families, and life is more complicated, right? Because you've got this web of all these different people who have all these different needs and traumas and things. And so when we take these times to connect more, we want it to be a blessing, right? We want it to be, and I know I say that word, then I'm like, I've talked about how I'm not so much liking that word. We want it to be a charmed experience, right? We want it to be something that is good for us and for our family members. And we are made to be social creatures. So we don't want to just run from that unless, obviously always, if something is toxic and it's not good for you, then create something that is good for you. I know here in the US, we celebrate Thanksgiving coming up this week, and a lot of people have taken up the new tradition of doing Friendsgiving the weekend before Thanksgiving. So a time to celebrate with family members of your own choosing, and that can be fun. And you can do that on any holiday. And here in the US, there are some not so stellar things about Thanksgiving and its origins. And so, awareness of that is good. And I still think it's fine to take time to give thanks, but to also remember the pain that we caused in the past. So maybe if we can work on healing within our own ancestors and doing things to just actually heal how we deal with people who are native to our country, that could be a blessing. I'm saying all kinds of words I don't want to say today. That could be a gift, right? So let's just go into the topic here a little bit and start with offensive magical protection. Preparing for the invaders. Set your energy in your house, right? It's your house. It's your space. And this is something that I learned a while back. People come and go from your house all the time. And even when you live with other people, this may or may not be controversial, but I think that you have the right to set your tone in the space that you live in, especially if you live in a house where there are other people bringing in energies that don't always feel good, if you have a roommate or a member of your family or whatnot. And so I like to do a couple of things. And one is a metaphysical practice that you can do anytime. And that is just to sit, ground yourself, take a few breaths, and do a short meditation where you just visualize sending out your highest energy and filling up your house with that energy. If you do Reiki, you can also use Reiki or other healing energies. You can ask your ancestors, angels, spirit guides, the land spirits who dwell on the place where you live to assist with this as well. But this is your house, right? And if you let people who are coming into your house, especially if you're having guests over, you're having a meeting at your house or whatnot, and you let them set the energetic tone, that's just asking for problems, right? So just taking that time, and it's not in a negative way, but it's just in I'm filling this house with high vibe, good energy that feels good to me. And you can visualize that any way that feels good to you. And you can just feel like yourself filling up with either Reiki energy or whatever, like white light, whatever feels good to you. Or you can even just have, invite in those helping spirits and see them filling up the house and, just merging that energy until your house feels really, really good to you. And then just set that intention. That energy is going to be the energy that stays. That's the dominant energy in the house. It makes such a difference. I've done this in past years before. I've had a lot of family come in for Thanksgiving, and things just seem more peaceful and calm when you've kind of set that intention that, high vibe, loving energy is what you want in your house. Now, for some physical things that you can do before people arrive, one thing that I've done that I like to do is to do like a crystal grid around the four corners of my home property. I've done this at our office too, and I get large chunks of black tourmaline. And I'll put a link in the cleansing. I have on my Amazon Marketplace, there is a list that has my favorite clearing and cleansing magic, either books and things that you can use. So black tourmaline is really good for protection. And so I put large chunky pieces of raw black tourmaline on the corners of the property and then take some time to activate that. I usually use Reiki, but any kind of just sitting and meditating and seeing those crystals making a protective grid around your property. I also like to make a floor wash and wash the floors in my house. You can use herbs. You can buy pre-made floor washes from botanica stores. You can put in some like soothing drops of essential oils. Just make sure if you have pets, it's something that's safe for your pets, but you can put in a few drops of lavender, anything that feels really good to you. And like wash the floors in your house, mop them, and do that with the intention that you're creating that nice energy protection in your house that you want. Usually what I like to do, and if you're not familiar with Florida water is also on my list, but it's a fragrance. It's a kind of a nice, crisp, florally fragrance and kind of gives you that barbershop smell. And it's been used for so long for protection that there's just a really good vibe of different people intending to use it as protection. And that's why I like it. Like some people will talk about, let's make our own version of Florida water. And my daughter has done that and I really like hers. But even though Florida water itself is not necessarily organic and everything, it just has that old time energy of something that people have used for years and years and years and put that intention of protection on it. And I just think that's powerful. Like when lots of people put an intention on something, be it a bottle of Florida water or an old mantra, an old Sanskrit mantra that's been said millions and millions of times. The more energy that we as a society or just we as people in this universe have put onto it, I think it makes it easier for us to connect with it. So you can even put a little bit of Florida water in the floor wash if you want. And sometimes like if I'm cleaning up the house and I'm like setting the energy, and when I'm done, I'll take the Florida water and make a little line outside my house and light it up. And like, that's like it's done. When you cross that line, that imaginary line, you're coming into good space, positive energy space. Another thing that you can do is you can hang up bundles of herbs, or you can just kind of put them in a bowl as kind of like a potpourri type thing. Particularly rue is a good one, is a good protective herb. It's one of my favorite. Or just getting a rue candle and burning it. You can use essential oils if they work for your family and your pets, and diffuse those. I think frankincense is a good one for protection. I'm trying to think. And you can always like Google that, or just kind of go with what feels good to you. Like take a whiff, and if it automatically makes your arm, your shoulders just drop down and relax, then it's probably a good one for you. So there's a lot of little things that you can do. And don't think that you have to do all of these. Just one is totally fine. So I've got, like I said, a list that I'll put a link in the show notes to. And one of the books on that list, it might be the only book on that list because it's my favorite, is by Kai Armand, and it's called Clearing Spaces. And he has a lot of techniques for clearing negative energy out of your home and just setting your own positive intention. So he does have some recipes for different floor washes. Also, like he has things about how to make a mojo bag to protect your house. A mojo bag is just a bag that has herbs and different things in it that is set for a special intention. So I'll put those links for you in the show notes if you want to go and look on Amazon at that book or some of those things. But you can look at also luckymojo.com. They have lots of protective recipes, and you can buy things from them as well. The herbs and different things to put in there. Also, I did mention lighting the rue candle, and any candle that feels good to you. There are like protective home candles that you can buy at Botanicas and different things like that. So just really taking that time to set the scene before other people come into your house is huge. So that's the offensive. Now we're going to talk about the defensive, or when you go out into the energy territory. I kid though, really. Humor is good, right? So it's fine to have humor and joke about these things, but then also just remember like the outcome that you want when you're meeting up with people. So I like to try to remember that when I'm going to things with family members that I may not have high levels of agreement with, I just try to remember that I'm connecting with people with whom I share ancestors or with whom my children share ancestors. And that can be really healing. It can also be really triggering. And here's the thing about people who are triggering to you. I'm going to give you a technique that I like to call the doorbell technique about how to deal with that. This is going to be the last technique in here. But just for now, keep it in mind that when they're triggering you, that means there's something there to be triggered, and they're doing you a good service by triggering you. And it's probably also fun for them, right? No. Okay, so when you're going on the defensive magical protection, physical things that you can carry a stone or a crystal that makes you feel protected, connected, grounded. You can wear an essential oil or an oil blend. You can have a little bottle of Florida water with you, and it can work like smelling salts. That or a bottle of essential oils or an essential oil roll-on. I find those to be quite helpful because you can just go in the bathroom, open it, take a whiff. And your body automatically calms. Another thing that you can use are calm drops or rescue remedy pastels. You can get those at pretty much any health food market. You could probably get them on Amazon too, but just be proactive. Have something like that on you before you go to Aunt Molly's house at Christmas, and especially if you know that she's going to say why haven't you had a baby yet? Now when you have a baby, or what are your kids doing? Well, my kids are doing better things, or whatever it is, right? If you know you're going into a situation where you're likely to be triggered, bring something with you that will soothe you. And, take a few minutes before you go in to just breathe and relax. You might want to if you know it's probably going to be stressful for you, pop that calm drop before you go in the house even. And then have extras in your purse. Okay, so that's the physical things. But on the metaphysical side, one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about is my first freebie, and it's still available. So I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's really old. I think I did it 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm not even sure what the name of it is. Is it how to shift your vibe in 5 minutes? And basically it's where I'm teaching you how to practice feeling your feelings, right? And I just saw an infographic, and I'm going to share that with you guys. Try to figure out, I don't know if I can put pictures in the show notes, and it's not something that I came up with, but this person, the way they described it is so primo in just one little square. But the fact of the matter is, thinking about your feelings is very different from feeling them. So if, you think about going to this dinner and you're Aunt Molly is such a blah, 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 and your mind races, that's the thinking apart feeling. That's the thinking about your feeling. The feeling is the actual sensations in your body. And here's the trick. We can go on and on and on, and we can ruminate for years about what an old biddy she is. But if we actually just sit down and stop thinking about her and just feel what we're feeling in our bodies, we can clear out and heal a lot of old gunk for ourselves, just because feelings, I'm not sure who it was that said this, but feelings that aren't felt never die. They just get stuck in your body, and they create triggers and diseases and stress and anxiety and depression. So you don't want to carry that around. You want to feel it. And so that's something you want to practice every day. And, the nice thing is people will come around and trigger old feelings that you have hidden in your body, and you can feel them. And then if you keep practicing that, you'll eventually get to a 0 point. And, depending on how long, if you're 50 years old, and you've been carrying around this stuff for years, it may take a few years of sitting down and feeling feelings every time they come up that are uncomfortable to clear that out. But eventually you get to 0 point where when you feel angry, you're actually angry about what's happening right now. Or when you feel sad, you're actually sad about what's happening right now. Most of us, when we feel an emotion, it's something is triggering an old emotion. So if you can kind of go through those and feel those as they're re-triggered and they come up, then eventually you'll be kind of like a newborn baby. Have you noticed babies? Like when they get mad, they just get mad and they get angry and you can see it and they scream, or they have, if they're a little bit older, they have a temper tantrum. But once it's done until we tell them, oh, don't be sad, don't be angry, don't cry, don't scream, don't have a fit, don't feel your feelings, stuff them like we do, right? And then they start becoming more and more like us, and then they get stuck and have traumas and triggers. And that's not to say if you've had some major traumas in your life, that's always going to be a part of who you are, but you can definitely heal a lot of the feelings just by feeling them. So I'm going to link to that freebie and somehow try to get that infographic and share who created that, because I just thought about that and it was a really good one. But in the moment of Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, Christmas, cocktails or whatever it is, if someone says or does something that makes you feel triggered, we're going to play this game. It's the doorbell game, okay? So they say something like, well, you've gained a lot of weight. And you're like, oh, it's like a punch in the gut or something. You're like, geez, thanks for bringing that up. So what I want you to do is pretend that they just rang your doorbell and handed you a gift, a nice package with a bow and all, right? And because they gave you this gift of showing you an old emotion that you need to feel and release, right? So mentally, I want you to just kind of chuckle and thank them and, just like, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me this gift. And then if it's possible at all, just say, excuse me, I need to go to the restroom, right? Or, if you've practiced feeling your feelings, sometimes you can do this in a second, even in front of people, and they won't notice. But, if it really makes you feel triggered and you got the breath knocked out of you, or you want to hit them, or you want to tear up, just excuse yourself and then breathe and do that thing. Feel that feeling. And don't think about it. I know it's tricky. It's a practice, but feel that feeling in your body. Like, does it feel like a gut punch? Does it feel like your throat's seizing up? Is there a weird pain in your elbow? Whatever it is, just feel what's happening in your body. And for a few minutes until you feel a shift. And then, go back out and either ignore that they ever said it, or if you respond, just keep it light and just kind of like mentally give them that like, I see what you did there. You're helping me out. And like, even when you have that mental shift, it's just easier to be chill and go on and do those things, and I'm going to assume that a lot of these people, they might be being passive aggressive, but they're not necessarily here wanting to like come at you, but it's just, they have old habits or patterns. And so, like I said at the beginning, if someone is really traumatic or really abusive, rather than just kind of annoying and unenlightened, shall we say, then don't hang with them. But if, it's just somebody who says a few things that push your buttons, just take that as a gift. They rang your doorbell. They handed you a gift. They pushed your buttons so that you can see some old upset. And of course, that is if you get more upset than is really warranted for what they did. Sometimes people, if someone came up and punched you in the head, you'd be mad, right? And it wouldn't necessarily be triggering old things. It's something to deal with right now. Feel your anger, but feeling your feelings, whether it's an old triggered feeling or it's a new feeling, is always a good thing to do. So let's just recap really quick on your experiment, because I've been kind of telling you. So for offensive protective magic, you want to do some physical cleansing or protection actions that we talked about, like cleaning the house, making the grid, lighting the candle, whatever works for you. And then also to do that energetic visualization of filling your house with your energy, the energy of your highest self, I guess I would say, because, we're all human and we all have that duality in us. But just, you want it to feel good to you, the energy of your house. And it's your space, so you get to have that, right? You get to choose what the energy feels like inside your living space. And then for defensive protective magic, one is to physically carry a protective item with you, be it a small bottle of Florida water, essential oils, a mojo bag like we talked about in clearing spaces. He has one for the house, but you can also carry some of those with you, or a crystal or a rock that makes you feel good and connected and grounded. And then for the metaphysical is to do that doorbell delivery method when you're triggered, or just, keep that practice of feeling your feelings. So I wish you a happy holiday season, whatever you celebrate. And even if you don't celebrate, it's a great time of year to take some extra time to connect with friends and or family. And so let's put a little bit of protection in place so we can enjoy the time with those we love and or are related to. And let's remember those that came before us and be good descendants and future exalted ancestors and live magically in the now. All right, and I will talk to you next time.